What culture are they teaching to our children in school?
Okay. You mean as of right now, or as it pertains to the critical race theory?
Because that plays a part of the critical race, because the critical race is in question based off of who the race is against, meaning who are the participants of the race. Listen to me. The reason why I'm saying it that way is because when you talk about the topic of race, this is about who an individual may feel as though is better. But that used to be called being prejudiced. But now they want to focus on, being racist. Okay, the only way it can be racist is if it's not done to just one particular group of people. It's done to all. It's done to all. And the reason why I'm saying that is because there's a lot of foreigners that are coming over here, still to this very day. Mm-hmm. And what they get indoctrinated in school with, is it the same thing that we're indoctrinated in school with? And if so, what culture are you teaching the children inside of the school? Whose culture is that?
Well, I was a kid running around in the 70s, and in elementary school, that was in the 70s, and up to from that time, and probably prior to, I've learned U.S. history. That's what it was called, United States history. So it didn't talk about American. That's not American history. But they taught us and instilled in us U.S. history, the corporation's history, mainstream white media history. That's what they taught in school. They taught very little about our ancestors.
What I was referring to was how that is the exact same. You're touching on what I'm talking about, but as far as U.S. history is concerned and what you're being taught in school, we know that as U.S. history, meaning the government, meaning that corporation, like you mentioned. Mm-hmm. But isn't that the same thing for the media?
That is the same thing for the media.
The media is taught to make the politicians look good. In turn, that makes the government look good. Same Correct. Thing with these so-called curriculums that they're teaching our children. That's why I asked that question originally. Whose culture are they referring to? Whose culture are they teaching in our school when all that information reverts back to just making this government look good?
Correct. Well, they're talking about the history of the United States Corporation of America, and that consists of, unfortunately, predominantly the white race and the things that they've done and how they've developed the 50 states. That's what it teaches about. And that's it. It teaches white history. Okay. And I'm not being racist. I'm telling the truth as I see it. They need to start in the educational system. The problem is they need to start with the truth first. Number one, they need to correct everything that was a lie. And I think I believe once they do that, we can then institute a curriculum at the different levels of understanding for each age group. For example, the words need to be taught right. For instance, slave. When you think of slave, the first thing anybody in this country thinks, and anyone who comes here to learn about U.S. history, when you hear the word slave, the first two people you think of is black people and white people. Black person was the slave, white person was the master. That's a lie. Now, they need to tell the truth of what slavery is and what it's about. Slavery means employment. It's a type of employment. The mainstream media, the entertainment community, everybody that comes here, growing up thinking that a white man beat blacks with whips and went and got them from their land, which is a lie.
Yeah, okay? That needs to be thrown out the window. I agree.
It needs to be thrown out, needs to be corrected. And they need to explain what slavery is, that it is employment. and that the people, copper color people, received a benefit. They were compensated for their work. Probably not the best, but guess what? They also need to teach that there were white slaves too. That needs to be taught, because right now the whole world thinks that white people were just masters that beat black people real bad and enslaved them and raped them and whipped them. That needs to be fixed. They need to tell that white people came to America and they were slaves.
To your point, they do state that these white folks came over here on boats as slaves. It's just not publicized, or it's not institutionalized within their indoctrinating curriculums inside of the schools.
Correct.
We're taught at a very young age that we were the slaves. Correct. We had chains and shackles. They did that purposely so that could be embedded in us at a very young age, because that's what I told people. In order to manipulate the mindset, you got to give them a whole perspective. You got to give the individual a perspective to lean on and make it believable by having interactions with the unbelievable. Let me say it that way. The reason why I say it that way is because they're playing off of your imagination. They're playing off of your emotions and your imagination. That's been done for a very long time. That's called social engineering. They have been studying this process for years. And they know for a fact, and who I mean by they is the government, they know for a fact that they have to continuously do this towards our children. And we can not only blame the government to that point, we have to blame the parents. But that's why I said it's going to have to take a community of us to come together to let the parents know, look, there is a problem with what's being taught or told rather to your children in elementary school. That's number one. It's starting there. It's going all the way up to colleges and universities. They controlled this. They started controlling the use of information of how it comes about firmly. Okay, meaning how it comes about, how it is established and agreed upon in the 1940s, 1948 to be exact. And I shared this before. It's HR 3342. That is the Information and Educational Exchange Act. And they did it in every step of the way. Now, to the point where they had to come back and utilize the same act differently. They renamed it in order to add things like the internet and every other thing, like dealing with social media, for example, social media sites. The government wants control of all information. No matter if you came up with the idea internet or not, the government wants control of it, over it. Why? Why should we not have control over the information that we give our children?
Correct.
Well, number one, they're getting you both ways. They're getting you through slavery, which is employment. They're keeping you employed to take your time away from your children, so you won't have time to teach them at home. That's number one. That is number one. They keep you away from your children purposely by telling you that you have to go slave for some white man that you never seen before for the majority amount of years of your life. And you still got to raise your children. Now that's difficult. So the child is left up to being taught by a stranger. That stranger was given a curriculum to teach by a body of people or a board, in which that school board, that's what I'm referring to, has to answer to the government only.
A governing body.
The Department of Education is who they answer to.
United States Department of Education. That is correct.
The Department of Education is falling up under this government, and they have done this systematically by design. And who I mean, once again, when I say they, I'm always referring to the government, most likely. I just gave you the code. I'll give you the name of it. Like how they say it's public law. It's public law 80-402 62 stat 6. January 27th, 1948 is when they passed this. No, they didn't hear nothing about this out of Africa theory until this was passed.
There you go.
This is also a reason why I told people that information differs in other countries, because it's only the information that this government can control. That's why when you see these Africans come from so-called Africa and come here, they don't know what the hell you talking about. It won't fail, and it started in the 1940s, 1948. That wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't. That's when my mother was a little girl. She was born in 1948. And the same with my grandmother. She was born in 1931. And she was like livid when we watched Roots and thought those were our ancestors. She put a nipple in that. She said, not that she had anything against Africans. She did say, why are y'all crying? You're not from Africa. Because we cry when we seen Kunta Kinte get caught with those chains. My grandmother, she put a nip in it. No, you're not African. And so they need to teach the truth. There were black slaves, and guess what? There were white slaves too, working in the same damn cotton fields.
That was before they even had cotton. They didn't have cotton until the 1880s. I could be wrong about that. Cotton was the very last one. Put it like that. It was the very last one. And it came late. But yeah, it wasn't always the cotton fields that they were working in. In fact, because they tell you slavery was abolished in the 1863, 1865, but look up when they started having a vast majority of cotton. That started super late, and I can't remember the year exactly. In other words, this is how you know slavery continued on, because they were showing us cotton fields and our people were out there picking cotton, but that came later. In fact, picking cotton was going all the way up until the late 1940s, 1950s. In fact, they still didn't stop it, but that's a different topic. But yeah, I can recall a few people's grandmothers I met saying they were still picking cotton in the 1940s.
Yeah,
1930s.
But they also failed to tell you that some of it was on their own land.
Yeah, of course. That's how they made money.
If we're telling our children the truth, then it's us against the government. So we're saying that they need to teach the truth in the schools. We're going to tell our children the truth, but their teachings can't contradict ours.
I
Just
agree
like
with that.
The Constitution, if you violate the supreme law of the land, any of the states, if it's unconstitutional for the Constitution, well, God damn it, what you're teaching my child is unconstitutional for me. I'm teaching my child the truth. You stop referring to my child. Stop referring to my child as a goddamn African and black. We don't teach our children that they're Africans, that they came on slave ships, that they're slaves, and that Negroes. We don't teach our kids that. We teach them the truth. We teach them what happened to us. We teach them that our main identities were changed and we were given labels. That's the truth.
We were given classifications.
We were given classifications. So these are the truths that we need to teach to our children. No, you're not from Africa. And then don't go to school and have them celebrate African American History Month because they're not Africans.
And does that even exist? I thought it was called Black History Month.
Exactly.
Same difference.
And I don't even like that.
I like that point. I like that point though.
You know, and I don't even like that either. And they don't understand the things that they've done to our children and that they do to our children. Okay? So that in a nutshell needs to be taught. Number one, everybody that came over here was just about a damn slave. And if you had to come here, you're a foreigner. However, if you were already here, you are not a foreigner and you are an aboriginal to this landmass. We do not teach our children that we came here because we didn't. We were already here when the Irish and all these other races came here.
That's correct.
Facts.
And they acknowledge that. See, the thing is that they acknowledge that in their records. I always give people the Virginia colony of London. All you got to do is pick up the Virginia statutes at large. Once you pick up those records, you can literally find out and see who they were in contact with when they got here. Keep in mind, the Virginia colony was controlled by the Virginia Company of London. So you know how far that history go back. Now we talking about 1600s. Correct. So, and I'm talking about early 1600s. So you may get some late 1500 stuff in there too. If you read like how I read 5 books damn near a damn day. I'm over exaggerating a little bit. It could be 2 days, but I'm a reader. My grandmother had me reading books before I could even go outside when I was young. I'm telling you, I read. I don't play that shit. Right. I couldn't go outside until I read the book and had to come to her and tell her what the book was about. And I better not lie, because she didn't already read the book. That's right. And we had to write book reports and give them to our goddamn right. Mother. We had to write a book report. When we my grandmother ain't play that. Yeah. My grandmother told me she wanted me to be a mayor or something. She just wanted me to be something, okay? To be separated from what was going on in front of my face. Yeah. Which was, she knew the fact that they were doing indoctrination inside of these schools. So she wanted me in the best schools that she could possibly get me in, whether she had to come out of pocket or not. I went to them schools with them white folks when I got older. So this is how I can tell you, yes, they were getting taught the same thing. Yeah. Because I still had friends back at home telling me what they were being taught, showing me, yo, can you help me with this? Yes. And see, what the problem is what they, man, I could get deeper on this topic, and I will, because it's a lot of stuff that they're teaching right now as we speak inside of them schools that don't make no goddamn sense. It don't. It doesn't. That should be questioned. Does not. And it should be out. I'm talking about out right now, out. Like, it shouldn't even be there. Like, number one, you know for a fact that any record that you see with the title is Black people or African American people, as soon as you see that, you know that information has an agenda and it's not in your favor. That's correct. Number one. Yep. That means that was not done by somebody with the best intent for our people. Because our people should not, and haven't been historically, in a large scale, referring to themselves as African American nor Black. And I proved that multiple times. Or Negro, or mulatto, or colored. Yeah, none of these classifications that were given to us by this goddamn government. By this government. And Indian, by the way. Yeah. Indian also. Indian. Okay. Right. They gave us that too. They actually created a person and called it an Indian. And we have that for facts. They created an Indian and disregarded the brown one, my complexion, the original, the full blood. That's what they did. Yeah, they gave you a different look for what an Indian was supposed to be. Correct. Hollywood. They wanted to change the way or the natural way of the real Aboriginal. 100%, I'm pure. Okay? But then, because a white man had a baby with a Black woman, or vice versa, you're the Indian. The browner one is the Negro. That's what they did. Why was that term Negro used on us? Out the blue now, out the blue. Because they were trying to tell us that it came from the Spanish term negra, but that means a person of color, not from Africa. They didn't say that. That means a person of a darker hue. Right. Of a darker hue, negra, negro. But were these pale faces coming over here using it that same way? No, they were not. You mean negro.
and negra.
Negro. Negra. Negro. That's Latin.
In the Latin language.
In the Latin language. See, and keep in mind what they call that area. Latin America? Tell me where Latin America's located.
In the Americas. But it's another name given by
another classification given by the government.
Given by the government.
They telling you they marking off their territory with an imaginary line.
Correct.
Okay. What area did they have to tell Trump that the U.S. control that he forgot?
South America?
It was in Latin America. It was an area in Latin America that he referred to and he forgot. And it's the reason why.
They became a state way later.
Exactly. That's the reason why. Hold on. They're not a state, but at the same time, yes, it is a state. A state is a country. Puerto Rico was one of the last countries that did what?
Became a state.
That consented to this government. Remember that picture I was showing people where it was Uncle Sam pointing at the Indian at the door?
And the Cubans and all of them, yep.
Okay. And you saw that list of who came late, who consented to the government and its rulership.
Puerto Rico.
And it's not what y'all think it is. See, they try to make it seem like it was a battle. Like all that fake Viking shit that y'all see on TV they lying. Like the movie 300, and they talking about a battle went down like that. They lying. That's not what happened. It's about what government accepted what government. And the whole time they had to give themselves the upper hand, and I mean the pale faces in general, by coming up with these stories that people felt for. And they gave you these descriptive terms and all this conceptualism. They gave you the images to make it seem as if it was true, versus them giving you hard evidence, primary sources. They lied about those Viking stories, the 300, and it was a big battle. Telling you that some pale faces swinging in a tree, right? Huh? How the hell you from Africa, but you Tarzan swinging in some trees, and you white,
Oh!
Y'all want me to get deeper?
Listen, honey.
Huh?
Go ahead on.
This is what they've been. I'm telling you, white supremacy is an illusion. When I say that, that's what I'm referring to. They have to give themselves that power to make it seem as if they up. This is the reason why they put themselves at the top, to make it seem as if they up. This is the reason why they put Europe at the top of the map, to make it seem as if they up. They at the bottom the whole time. This entire government ain't got shit on us. Nothing. It's all talk.
It's all it always has.
This whole time, even with the documents, all talk. Treaties, all talk. Congress, congressional meetings, all talk. The president talking to the people, all talk. The media, all talk. Real talk. This look at it. It's an illusion. They making it seem as if you fitting in, but they keeping you out for a reason. Because if you inside, you can expose their insides.
You get to know the truth.
I'm not gonna go too far on this, y'all. I'm not gonna go too far on this. It's not okay. We see how they treating our people already. We talking about buy black. But now we know the reason why that's not working. It's because black means death in law. Not only that, that means dead, period, non-existent.
Boom.
So if you saying buy non-existent, it's gonna keep non-existing. Listen, it's gonna keep non-existing.
Facts.
This has been happening for years. We could stop this now, damn it. We don't gotta wait for nobody to come save us. We don't gotta wait for nobody.
No.
We could do this right now.
Facts.
If y'all hear me 5 years, 10 years from now, it's always gonna be the same message. We have to do this for us. We cannot let nobody do. I'm talking about nobody. The people, the Aborigines, the Niji, the Aboriginals, the Indigenous, the Primordials. We, the first are here. The first here, us.
Correct.
We have to do this. It can't be no foreign influence. Like, for example, the people of South America waiting on us. The Africans waiting on us. It's us, y'all. We gotta start it.
That's why I told y'all not to vote. Run your damn self. You can take your own spots back.
We could do this shit, man. And we gonna do it. I know we gonna do it. It's inevitable. They cannot stop it. It's gonna happen. They can't stop it.
And see,
and they know they can't stop it. Even with the international law, they can't stop it.
They damn sure.
That's their own law.
Yeah.
They can't intervene. That's according to their own law. We could do our own shit.
That's right.
They tried to scare you with that Tulsa, Oklahoma situation. They tried to scare you. Now we can do this shit again.
How many people know how to light fires? Because
Right.
that's what they did in Oklahoma.
They had army planes. They dropped bombs.
Yeah,
it was U.S. Army planes. They burnt everything. I agree with that. And they also had Tommy guns, machine guns strapped to big trucks, riding around in people's homes. These motherfuckers did that, y'all. Real talk though.
No excuse.
That's not no joke. Like, this government dropped bombs on us.
Yes.
And we still kissing their ass.
For what?
And that was 1921. And it's 2021. How long you gonna wait?
That's the goddamn problem right there. We only need 13%. The rest will follow suit. The rest will follow suit. The rest will follow suit.
Not any of that. Just supremacist. What is the definition of a supremacist? Well, it's a person who believes that a group of one particular fashion, meaning one particular group, which would be determined either by race, religion, or sex, it could be either one, and they feel this one particular group being determined by either their race or their religion or their sex is mentally or morally superior to all other groups. It should dominate the will of all persons in society, and a supremacist supports a belief that a particular group, whether if they base themselves on either race, sex, or religion, would rule over all other groups with their ideologies. So supremacists are pretty big on ideologies. See, in order to identify a true supremacist, it's not really based on them telling you, because most supremacists, because of the politics in America, which dissuades supremacy and does not support such type of thinking openly in the mainstream, it's not like they're going to go and say, hey, that's a good idea. So we don't use supremacy rhetoric anymore, or supremacist rhetoric. So many supremacists would come into the mainstream media undercover, meaning they're not going to come in and say, I'm a supremacist. No, they're going to come in and say, I'm a nationalist, or I believe in American nationalism, or I'm a patriot, or I'm a Christian American patriot / love my country, and I'm going to do that. Or maybe they're, they'll come in and say, I'm a Trump supporter. Or maybe they'll say something else. They're not going to say supremacist. Now, some of them could be patriots. And some of them could just be American nationalists, meaning they believe in an American identity. Or maybe they're using those terminologies to cover for what they really are. But we're not going to be able to tell just by, they say so. We have to hear the words that come from their speech in order for us to really understand where they're really coming from. So supremacists are actually big on ideologies. And you will notice that before they confess God or not, or before they confess patriotism or not, and before they confess other things or not, it is their ideologies they preach first. And then they'll mention some God or mention something to maybe cover that, But the ideologies, they preach first and last in every speech. And they do it, and their ideologies fill up about 90 to 95 to 98% of what comes out of their speech. So the etymology for supremacist, it comes from the word supremacy. Now, supremacy comes from a word, or is a word, that comes from a Latin word. It is a Latin word that describes beings in higher worlds who sat on clouds as supreme beings. So let me give you the understanding of it. So supremacy comes from a Latin word that describes beings in other higher worlds who sat on clouds as supreme beings. Meaning it came from a Latin word to describe demons, fallen angels. You see, the gods lived in the clouds, in the higher realms of the unseen principalities, as these so-called gods were called. And they were called supreme beings. In fact, they had other names too. I'll tell you what they were. White supremacy beings. Why did they get the term white? Not because of skin color, but because of the color of the radiance of their shine. Hence, you ever heard of white purity, white magic, white power? You see, those terminologies, before people ran around and threw them up with Nazi symbols, they used to signify the gods for which the Bible condemns. And that's where supremacy and supremacist comes from. It was a doctrine formulated by beings in higher worlds, meaning by Satan.